It's okay, I don't need to say this.
G. McCarthy agus Foilseacháin go dtí an Clew Bay Arís agus on Gig Teoranta in Covey Week 2023, and it's kind of a bit bilingual tonight because we're celebrating FNT, Foilseacháin Náisiúnta Teoranta, one-time publisher of the Mayo News, 100,700,432 Irish books and English books as well. So the whole idea of tonight is very informal, by the way, just so that we can have people who are working there, and we have several of them among us tonight. Pádraig Geraghty will be late, Martha Gubber. This is Monday night, and Silly Boy here arranged a gig talking about the Mayo News on a Monday night when he goes to bed. Yeah, shows you how much he knows. But anyway, he'll be here presently. We have a few people here, and I'm just going to hand around the mic to people, basically, just to ask them to kind of share their memories, reminiscences, and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to start, I think, Cormac, you have a little overview, have you? A little bit of a history, you say. So if I may start with Cormac O'Kearney, he'll give us a bit of context, I think, about FNT. What that chap Susan Shaw? No, Susan Shaw. And by the way, we have a few books. I would ask at the end, you can look at them, but we want to keep them separate because they're owned by different people, so we want to keep ownership. You may look at this as well, but please don't take anything out of it. This is the Inniu file. So if you could leave it there. If you don't want a copy of anything, no problem. Absolutely no problem. But if you could leave it, as they say, Virgo intacto for all you Latin people. So Cormac, on Shaw, no one should. Imagine he worked there 400 years ago.
Cormac, my involvement in the FNT is nil. Because by the time I joined the Mayo News, FNT was long gone. But my connection, direct connection, I suppose, with the Mayo News would be my uncle, Joe Kenny. Joe was a compositor, is that the right word, Pat?
That's right.
Yeah, he worked, prior to the Mayo News, he worked with the Irish Press, probably served his time there. But his great claim to fame would be that he typeset Cray McKillia, Martin O'Kine's famous book. Now, Uncle Joe, Nero Focal Reig, they were sold him, Achar sé an leabhar chéile, agus Conghaile sin, he did the proofreading. Now,
Worked that
and there were no mistakes in to my knowledge, but and it was difficult because if you consider what's involved in those days, the typesetting, and correct me, old Mayo News stock if I'm making any buttoon, because I've not been involved in the hot lead process. But everything was done in reverse, even the paychecks, I'm told. But I'm still reading from it now. I have a photograph here of Peter Murray, whom you all know. Peter working on a Liamy type machine. And my God Almighty, tonight, a frightening machine. How many keyboards were on it, Pat? 2 or 3? 2 keyboards, I think you were chopping and changing back the whole time. And nothing but nuts, bolts, washers, and anything else that could go wrong. And things did go wrong. No, we had a situation like this. I'll have to show it to the camera. Everything was in reverse, as I said. The type was brought out in reverse, and when it was inked and put to paper, it came out in the normal way. So to bring out a newspaper in them days was very, very difficult, and the people that did it, in my opinion, they were absolute geniuses. But anyway, that's Uncle Joe's connection with it. Now, I've only 2 hands. The Mayo News, or the Inniu we're talking about, Foilseacháin and that was very much involved in the original setup of the FNT. He was involved in the printing press, the Foilseacháin and Teoranta, which was incorporated in 1947 in Westport by taking over the press from the Mayo News and continuing to publish that paper also. FNT was established mainly to ensure the continued existence of Inniu and fulfilled this role for over 35 years. But because of the geographical distance between Dublin and Westport, both the FNT and Inniu, they found it more difficult to bring out the paper. And indeed, in those days you couldn't lift a mobile phone and ring Pat Cawley or someone like that to ask him when was the paper going to come out. So FNT became an important publisher of Irish books, issuing, for instance, Martin O'Kane's Conghaile in 1949. And by 1984, Inniu had ceased publication. And while FNT was further publishing the weekly Mayo News, printing books as well as doing job printing, it went into liquidation in 1988. Now, around that time, I think I would have come on board. Would that be right? Yeah, I joined the Mayo News around that time. Things had totally changed. The hot lead process had all but disappeared. And I remember going in, looking at Peter Murray and Paul Gertie and John Joe and people like that, working the two processes, because computerization was coming in, had come in. And they would spend so many hours working on the hot lead process, they'd have to switch over then to computing and totally different keyboards. And they were absolutely fantastic lads that they could handle the two systems. But thereafter, we went totally computerized. So I'll take a little sauce there, really,
yeah.
If that's okay?
That's right. Thanks, Cormac. Fair play to you. Well, Traolach is here. Traolach's dad worked there, Liamy McNally, and Traolach is going to tell us, I think, about one or two of the most important books of Squilga that were published there. I think.
Well,
We'll see. You never know what he'll
we
say.
don't know.
Nobody knows. If any knows what I want to say, I'd be welcome to.
Tell you.
So, beidir go dóid me héan sus báldog agus beidir go dúcha me ráis I ríist le tide agus I do it maybe bilingual as well. I think it would be fitting because it was Foilseacháin not the Teoranta. My connection with it was that I was a child and my dad worked in the Mayo News office, and like most kids, where he worked or what he did was way out there. But as I got older, I began to know more about it. And my sister-in-law, Julie Connolly, down there, how are you, Julie? Worked there as well with Dad. So we have a strong family connection. Quite gun rud the doors to a Cormac in Shen. Cormac started and he mentioned Foilseacháin or Foilseacháin. First thing I'd say to you is when I look at the founders of FNT, we'd say the three main characters that were involved with that. Well, Cormac has already mentioned Foilseacháin. He was Belfast born, Northern, and the family moved to Sandymount in Dublin in 1922. His great-grandfather would have been Feeney, one of the Fenians. I think that his father died and that the mother and the family came to Dublin. And he got involved with Clew Bay Hotel. They weren't so happy with Conghaile, and I think they thought we needed more action, and they had this vision. So, and he also wrote under a pen name or an Clete, Seamus O'Doherty. That was his pen name. And as Cormac alluded to there, in 1947, they bought the Mayo News. And the Mayo News, because it was a printing works, that's where the value was. Their interest in the Mayo News was probably very small. You know, their interest in was Irish publication. The other man that was involved, he was Lias Agahor, deputy editor for years and years, Teoranta O'Heath. Now, Teoranta O'Heath was born Augustus Walter Hood in London. And when I was researching that, there wasn't an awful strong connection back to Ireland. It went back, I don't know, was it on his mother's side? Somewhere. But he became involved with Conghaile in London. And he later, or maybe around the same time, he became a member of the IRA. And Wogshé Conghaile, he moved to the Donegal Gaeltacht, and he was in Strabane for a while and in Belfast afterwards. He was an editor of the War News, Pápéir Unaira Eganam, Chashe Trefshe Sibrisun, so he was in prison for a while. So that's just to give you a flavour of that man, Teoranta O'Heath, agus tá leabhar na hóin seo leis an Mauard. So the other man was, as Cormac said, was Pruntis MacVein or Pruntis MacAnvaha. And the third man that was very important, and this was Ciarán O'Nualan. Now a lot of you would know and have heard of Flann O'Brien. And he was a brother of Flann O'Brien because Brian O'Nualan was Flann O'Brien and he was Miles Nagapaline. So anybody that had trouble believing in the Trinity from the Bible or never accepted the shamrock, you got another incarnation in Brian O'Nualan. And Brian O'Nualan's great work was on Béal Bocht, in Irish, on Béal Bocht. And it was so fresh at the time because how dare anybody write about the Irish experience and take fun of it, have a bit of fun with it. So his brother was Ciarán O'Nualan, born in Strabane, up the north as well. Their father, he moved around a lot with his work, and he was in Dublin and they were in Offaly at some point. But so I suppose the first thing I'm going to say is if you look at the three names, Pruntis MacAnvaha, Ciarán O'Nualan agus Teoranta O'Heath, tá bunús oltach nó ceanga le cúige ola. There's a non-stop connection there is very strong. And the other thing you'll notice is that it's very much rooted in a certain vision for Ireland. So there were the three. Now, you may get a good roada. The other thing, Cormac, agus Inniu, fill in the gaps. The other thing I wanted to do was two things I wanted to do this evening. I wanted to thank I want to thank all the people in Mayo News that kept it going for so long. Because one thing I would probably say, and this will give us a version of it here, publishing is probably always difficult, even in modern times. There's talking about, the way print is changing. And these changes are happening, and we're gone digital now, and we read a lot of stuff online. So, the name of the paper, Inniu, today. And I think the vision was that it may eventually become a daily Irish publication, which would have fitted the title perfectly, Inniu, today. So it remained, and in its inception it was the 17th of March, Seachtú Déag, go bhí an Mhárta, 1943. So thosa sé ar lála páraigh, ag 1943. Agus chríochna sé ar an 4 fichiad go lúnasa 1984. Cuimhe bit idir tú an filtán sin gom atá faoin gachir. Spáin me rud bechaíb. Now, this is the final edition. I don't know if you want to get that there. Foilseacháin, final word. And we had a tactrach on Gardinel and Gardinel Thomas O'Fee. Now, tá Pishenberg, tá me geri leif chi bashta. And this will tie in. This is only a small little bit now. I'm not going to forget a second. Let's see now.